When you think of high-tech countries, Spain is not the first name that comes to mind. But if you think about new paradigms and the challenging of old assumptions, well, this is not a bad place to be. It was at this very spot 500 years ago that Christopher Columbus sailed, challenging the notion that the Earth was flat. So maybe it is appropriate that the leaders of the global computer industry are gathering here in Spain to challenge the assumptions of the past and tell us what they think the future holds. Today, we'll take you to the European Technology Roundtable Exhibition here in Barcelona on this special edition of the Computer Chronicles.
Computer Chronicles is brought to you in part by Intel, microprocessor technology for the software of today and tomorrow. Intel, the computer inside. Additional funding is provided by the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee, and with me today in Barcelona is Alex Villa, chairman of Dassault Incorporated, the company which puts on this high-powered computer conference. Alex, the computer industry is changing so quickly, it's hard to know from week to week what you really ought to be talking about, what the appropriate topics are. What, in fact, will you guys be talking about at this year's ETRE? What are the main themes?
In 1993 at ETRE in Barcelona, we are going to talk about profitability in the 90s, because most of the companies are facing the hurdle of being able to show profits quarter after quarter. Many of them have been able to do that, but none of them has been remote from a bad quarter. The second theme that we're going to talk about is really the fact that there's converging technologies nowadays, and there's a merger of media, publishing, communication, networking, and computers. And we have to see all the challenges and all those new novelties that it creates in the industry. The third theme is, of course, the fact that the alliances are becoming really the mainstay of this field, and how are they going to reshape the companies, people, and to reshape our daily life. And last, and not the least, the fact is that distribution and the distribution channel transformation is creating a new set of paradigm in the industry. And we want to be sure that we understand what is going on both here in Europe and in the rest of the world.
Okay, today we will hear from the top names in the computer industry, people like Bill Gates, Philippe Kahn, Bob Corrigan, Esther Dyson, and many others. We'll begin our coverage of this International Computer Conference by visiting the Technology Exhibition to get a preview look at the newest hardware and software products.
How about you gentlemen from the continent?
There was no doubt at this computer conference that groupware has finally arrived, and that software developers are now trying to make applications that adapt to the way humans work rather than force us to adapt to the way computers work. This is a demonstration of Group System 5 from Ventana. It is electronic meeting software that allows up to 15 different individuals in the same location or in different locations to interactively attend the same meeting by using their PCs. And according to the product's developer, these electronic meetings work better than real live meetings.
In effect, everybody can be speaking at the same time through the keyboard. So that creates a very different dynamic. We add features such as anonymity, where the individuals from the highest to the lowest level in the organization have equal input to the process. And that really changes the way people behave. The dominant personality is suppressed, etc.
There were also exhibits here of groupware hardware, control devices designed to facilitate electronic meetings. Another approach to groupware was this program called IDGen. Its developer says it's CAT software, computer-aided thinking, designed to help one person or a group of people to brainstorm new ideas. One interested customer who stopped by for a demonstration was Microsoft's Bill Gates. One clear theme at this computer conference was the redefinition of the personal computer, from a document creation device to an information retrieval device.
Computers are used primarily today to create documents, create word processing documents or spreadsheets. And we don't really use the computer as the primary way of finding documents or of reading documents. And if we can make the machine easy enough to use, if we can store the information so we know it's easy to find, make it easy to read there, then the computer will be really at the center of communications, and you'll think of everything being networked within your company, across company boundaries, finding movies, bulletin boards, everything you want to go get. And that's the broad opportunity we're all pushing towards.
One key element to the future of computing is fast and simplified networking. Microsoft's effort in that area is focused on Windows NT. This is a demonstration of an alpha version of the newest NT, showing its processing power and multi-threading capability. Here running 4 SQL database queries at once, and here running 3 different Video for Windows movies at the same time. According to Gates, the new operating systems are going to have to do a lot better job of providing a transparent and friendly user interface.
In order to make this happen, we have to get away from thinking of a spreadsheet and a word processor. These are separate things, because the kind of data we want to navigate, you have tables and numbers and pictures and motion all mixed together. And so the center has to be finding, navigating, not individual applications. And so with this object approach, OLE 2.0 that Windows is now promoting, we're moving towards this information at your fingertips.
Once everyone is networked and able to move all kinds of data across terminals, the next step is the true paperless office. And WordPerfect CEO Alan Ashton says that will lead to the dominant software application of the future, integrated email.
And the most natural one that people would want to do as they're in the word processor is to take that document that you've just finished and send it around to whomever should receive that document, so that you have direct mail enabling. Our WordPerfect for DOS, the WordPerfect 6.0 that has just come out on the marketplace, is the first of the word processors that has this capability. And there you can choose to send it over WordPerfect Office or Microsoft Mail or CC Mail or DEC Team Links, so that right from within the word processor you can make those decisions.
But most of today's simple email systems don't give the user enough power and control. Ashton says there has to be one more step, something he calls the statusing of a piece of mail.
So if I send it to 4 people, I can look in my outbox and take a look at who has received those documents. So I have automatic statusing in terms of whether you have opened, whether you received the mail message, whether you've opened it, whether you have deleted the mail message, so that if somebody deletes the mail message without even looking at it, I can know that he hasn't received the information or that she hasn't received the information. If I want to retract that document, just like sticking my hand in the mailbox and bringing it back if I need to change the information, or if I want to save my job, maybe I was in the heat of the moment said something that I really didn't mean to say and want to retract that, I can do that.
Software may be changing in functionality, but according to some of the industry leaders who gathered here in Barcelona, the biggest change in software will be how we buy it. That's coming up next.
This is La Sagrada Familia, the most famous landmark in Barcelona. They started work on this cathedral more than 100 years ago, and they're still not finished. It's a bit like the computer industry. We've been through many architects and many architectures, and we still don't know for sure how it will all end up.
What's happening is an $8.5 billion software distribution business is in the process of completely restructuring itself.
Peter Sprague used to spend his time as chairman of National Semiconductor. But now he's fascinated with the enigma of today's software marketplace. And he says he has a better idea from a new company he's formed called Wave Systems.
You'll hit a button, and the next thing that will happen is you'll see a screen that says, would you like additional credit? It looks exactly like an ATM screen, $50, $100, $200 or other amount. You type it in. They've got a record of your credit card. They receive an authorization exactly like the credit card swipe. And they send new codes down and new cash to your meter. So effectively, it's like a postage meter. You just bought another $100 worth of access.
And why would you want to rent software?
Well, you might want to rent a game for play, but you also might be an engineer who's laying out a printed circuit board, and you really would like to have a $10,000 software package, but you're only going to use it once. So wouldn't it be nice if you could pay $500 for it for that 1 week's usage?
Sprague is not alone in challenging today's software distribution model. This is Masayoshi Son, president of Japan's largest software distributor, SoftBank.
If you go to the store, it's shrink wrapped in the box. And you can see from the outside, you know, it tells what it is, but you actually don't know what it is, you know. And especially software is very difficult to imagine what it is from the outside of the box. And if you open the shrink wrap, that's it, you have to buy it. You cannot return.
Analyst Esther Dyson agreed.
Putting software on disks ultimately will be seen to be as strange as putting information on paper. It's really just a physical manifestation of something that's electronic. And so you don't really need the paper, and in the future you probably won't really need the disk or the box either. You download it into your PDA, you keep it up in the sky, and you just have the parts you need that show up on the screen or the keyboard. So it's a temporary artifact.
Masayoshi Son's idea is to sell software on a CD-ROM, effectively giving you your own software store on a disk.
We would make a CD-ROM, and in one CD-ROM there would be 50, 100 application software, and they can see the demo, they can try it, and then if they like it, they can just call our operations center, and we would give the password to unlock it, so that the user can, after they pay on the credit card over the phone, they can just unlock the software and purchase right there.
Many of the experts here thought the long-term outlook for the software business would be in renting software rather than selling it, because the vendors can make more money that way.
If I'm going to make money, I don't want to sell something once. I want to collect 2 cents each time they do something. I want to collect 2 cents for each piece of data they get. I want to collect 2 cents each time they log on. And so information services are going to be, I think, the most interesting business, not operating systems and not chips in the future, because that's what's always renewable, what you can keep on selling.
Borland's Philippe Kahn thinks that's a pretty good idea, imagining a kind of taximeter hooked up to your word processor.
You know, every time they hit the spelling dictionary, they pay 2% or 2 cents royalty to Houghton Mifflin. Or maybe the operating systems take care of keeping track of all that, and at the end of the month they say you owe $21.50 on the usage of software. Maybe you'll end up not buying software, but actually paying as you use it, just like when you rent a video, you pay for the video as you rent it.
But everyone doesn't agree that software rental is the wave of the future.
In the short term, people will still want to own software. I think people will be nervous putting their ideas or their information into a container that is not definitely theirs personally to own. So I'm not certain that metering software will catch on.
Another main software topic here was the drastic price reductions in major software packages, like Quattro Pro for Windows, selling for $49.95. Borland's Philippe Kahn says the price is low because the key is establishing the installed base at any price.
This is an upgrade business. We want a lot of users. We want to give a chance to a lot of people to see the product, use it. And if they like it, they'll keep on buying from us. And it's kind of our bet. Our bet is you'll like it so much, try it, and we'll make our money later.
Every software company CEO here agreed that they have to find a way to bring down the cost of software development. Bill Gates pointed out that while Windows 3.1 had about 5 million lines of code, the new upcoming version of Windows will have nearly 20 million lines of code. That saga is repeated by Software Publishing's CEO, who says there is an urgent need for modular software design.
Now, I like to tell people that the first product we built, called PFS File for the Apple II, in 1980 was 30,000 lines of code written by one engineer. One of our current products, Harvard Graphics, plus or minus 500,000 lines of code done by 100 engineers. Well, you can see how it's getting harder and harder to build products, so we need some productivity tools in software, and I can't be more articulate than that, but I think we'll get to a topic and a subject which will eventually be called objects or components, and we'll snap them together to build bigger systems like they do with hardware.
What's the future hold in computer hardware? We'll have that story coming up next as we continue our coverage of the ETRE conference in Barcelona.
Barcelona was, of course, the site of the 1992 Olympics, which were held right here. Some athletes came here competing on their own. Most others depended on teamwork. That's not a bad metaphor for the computer industry, where some companies are still going it on their own, but where the emphasis in the future is definitely on working together.
Our industry is based on compatibility and interoperability. Software is kind of the only industry where, in order to have a piece of software that works on your computer, your piece of software, for example, my piece of Borland software has to work with a piece of Microsoft software because it's the operating system, and probably a piece of maybe Lotus software or somebody else's software. And we all have to interoperate. On top of that, each one has its own idiosyncrasies like macro languages, etc. It's very important that we're all able to bring all those elements together to get systems that work. So the idea of openness and compatibility are key to our industry.
Compatibility and interoperability require cooperation among computer companies, and that has not generally been the case, with lawsuits flying left and right over ownership of the look and feel of computer interfaces. Philippe Kahn says legal battles, like the one between Lotus and his company Borland, don't make sense.
If I applied say the Lotus position to automobiles, it would be like saying that the way the clutch, the gas pedal, and the brake are organized in the car should be different from every manufacturer. And therefore you go and rent a car and you get an accident, or you never be able to really learn and you'd be stuck with the same brand of cars.
One of the issues hardware and software companies are dealing with is finding the right input model for tomorrow's computers. Will it be the keyboard, the mouse, the pen, or the microphone?
But I think it's going to be the combination of the pen and the voice is going to be incredibly important. And yeah, that's natural. That's how people communicate. People will have to learn to speak a little more clearly, just as you have to think clearly when you work with a computer.
There has been lots of bad press on the pen input recognition found in today's first-generation PDAs, but one of the pen input companies here said that's only because the PDA folks haven't done their homework.
A lot of people that have come into the recognition technology arena have started out and said, okay, here we go, I'm going to create a recognizer, and they're using a lot of post-processing techniques, spell checking, etc. The problem is when you start there, you haven't done any of the groundwork, and it's like building your house on a mudflat. CIC's approach has been to first identify the characters and go from a character recognition first and get very high confidence levels on each character, so then when you add in the linguistic post-processing like bigram and trigram statistics and spell checking, etc., you're going to have higher confidence levels on each character.
This is a system called Handwriter from Communications Intelligence Corporation. It uses a combination of analytical algorithms, including neural nets and fuzzy logic, but the focus is on massive data collection to build a library of every possible version of a handwritten character. IBM is also working on pen input systems to complement the research it has already done on voice input, but IBM's Bob Corrigan says the problem with pen input is not just the software. It's the fact that people don't write normally on those pen pad surfaces.
The application of actually writing a long, involved piece is more of a function of the feel of the pen on the surface and the fact that the natural drag isn't there yet. There's quite a lot of activity where people are working on different points, different surfaces of glass to give the resistance so that you can write small enough. If you've tried one of those things today, you end up writing with big letters, and they're okay for short notation, but if you wanted to write what's on your pad, for example, you'd probably go crazy.
Speech as input and output has come a long way. Text-to-speech systems are now rather sophisticated. These new programs from Berkeley's speech systems, called Best Speech TTS and Readout, can read in several languages: Japanese, Italian, French, German, English, and Spanish.
Computer Chronicles.
But speech recognition is where most of the action is, and this company, Learnout and OSPI, based in the Netherlands, has developed some rather impressive technology that has been licensed to AT&T as the engine behind their new automated directory assistance service, which will use no live operators, but will require you to spell the name of the person you're looking up.
E-J-O.
Much of the interest in speech and pen input is driven by the demands of the new handheld devices, or PDAs, which simply don't have room for a keyboard or a mouse. Most of the industry gurus here concede that today's PDAs are still first-generation gadgets.
The Newton's a pretty terrific release 0.5. I like to say some of these pen machines, they're kind of like a one-year-old dog. You know, they're smart and they're faithful. They're not going to get a lot smarter. And they can do a fair amount. The Newton is like a one-year-old baby. It doesn't do as much as a one-year-old dog, but it has a lot more potential.
PDAs, this is the kind of the first generation. And if you look at the first Macintosh, the 128K Mac, I mean, that did not just ramp, and it was definitely limited. And it's the same thing now with the early generation of PDAs, but it will rapidly evolve as you get more communication options.
While most of the PDAs out there now are attempts at adding communications capability to palm-top computing devices, some companies are going at it the other way, adding computing and data capability to communications devices.
We have a product, we've shown it at shows. We haven't decided whether we're going to market that product or not. It's a cellular telephone type technology that has computing functional organizers, pointing things. And we've showed that product around and we're working now.
Traveling Software's Mark Epley says the success of cellular phones proves that PDAs can't be far behind.
Look at the number of cell phones right now, and look at that penetration, look at those sales ramp. And you can already see it. The day of the voice-only cellular phone is numbered. You can already see now Motorola selling theirs, and it has alphanumeric paging capability. And I think in not too many years from now, the cell phone of the future will be voice and data. And there will be some way to interact with data with that cell phone. It will be the personal communicator of the future.
Several attendees at the ETRE conference were walking around actually using their Newtons, but Mark Epley says the communications capability of today's PDAs is equivalent to the telephone of the last century.
You go back 80, 90 years, if I had a telephone, it was a big deal. I'd say, hey, come on over, Stuart, look what I got. I got the telephone in my home. Yeah, well, that's cool. Now watch, I'm going to complete a call, and it would be a big deal if I completed a call. And that's kind of where we are today. It's a big deal if I do a file transfer, if I connect back to the office. Wow, it actually worked.
One new approach to portability in computing is the new IBM ThinkPad 750 with its new modular design. You can not only easily move components around inside the ThinkPad, but one of the components you can add is a TV module, which lets you watch television on your notebook. And there was also virtual reality on a PC. This was a demonstration of practical virtual reality software from a company called Dimensions International. This three-dimensional design software couples hot objects in a virtual reality environment with artificial intelligence to model human behavior.
The basic point here is that people are trying to escape the fire through the route that they came into the building. This is perfectly normal human behavior. However, there is much closer, much more easy to get to a fire exit.
Multimedia was the other main theme at this ETRE conference, with everyone trying to figure out how real this multimedia business is, and there were lots of different views.
Multimedia is real. It's overrated because it's so much fun to put on TV. I think in two areas it's really going to be important. One is this whole, call it consumer shopping, advertising, marketing, all that stuff. And the second is training, education, etc. But somebody who wants to do an analysis of something, he's still got to think symbolically. I mean, at some point, you want the real facts, you don't want a video.
It may be that unlike a lot of computer technologies, this is one, multimedia, that won't initially make money in the business world. We may actually have to go straight to the consumer. That in fact, multimedia is not necessarily a great business application. People should be just writing reports with words, not trying to illustrate them with short video clips.
Indeed, the prevalent view here was that the real drivers for tomorrow's multimedia technology will come from consumers and from their appetite for entertainment rather than information.
Well, I think it is the consumer, but what does the consumer want? It's entertainment more than anything else. And I think that most computers until now, in fact including now, are just too hard to use. They're really terrible user interfaces, and I think the computer industry can learn so much by working with the entertainment community, because they are the ones that know how to really relate to the human psychic.
It was clear from talking to the computer industry CEOs here in Barcelona that virtually all computer companies, even the biggest, are crossing old borders in search of new partners and new clout.
Well, since we only focus on our slice, which is doing software, we need to be working with studios and phone companies and cable companies and people who have news and weather. So the very business structure we have forces us to use alliances, just like we have in the PC industry with the hardware and chip people, in order to get a complete solution. Because we're going to stay doing, the one thing that we think we're really good at. And so we're spending a lot of our time meeting with these other companies, explaining our vision, seeing what projects we can do together.
Why are computer companies talking with movie studios and TV networks? It's the theory of software, Uberalis.
Software is going to run our lives, from where we get our cash in the bank to the way we watch movies, the way we open doors, the way we do all these things. There is a software interface to things. There's pieces of software everywhere, and there's pieces of software that are going to be part of all of this. And if we are not certain that compatibility is part of our life, then we'll have a big problem in front of us. So interoperability, compatibility, open systems are key to the future of our society.
And that means a totally new model for running a computer business, and a willingness to throw out some old, comfortable concepts.
Everybody really has to think about their business models. I think what the business models that have worked in the past may no longer be applicable in the future. Certainly in the area of Newton, for example, we are not only looking at a hardware-centric business model, but we're talking about licensing, we're talking about software, we're talking about services. Every Newton will allow you to get onto electronic mail. We will be providing that electronic mail service. There is a pager card, for example, that can go into Newton, and we have announced that we have partnered up with Bell South Mobilecom in delivering a Apple messaging or paging service. So these are new areas for Apple, certainly. Who would think that we will be in the paging business? But this is symbolic of the new business models that we're going into.
And if you're selling a product at a very low margin, or a low type of, you have to be very fast, it has to turn very quickly, your assets have to move. And there's a very easy way to make an attractive return. It just happens to be different than the classical computer model. So that's what we're about. That's where we talk to our people about being fast on your feet, make pricing decisions in the market, no more bureaucracy, run, and that's the nature of this business.
If you're on the ground in Barcelona, you might say you're in the Gothic Quarter, or the Old City, or the Waterfront District. But when you see it from up here, it looks like one big, indivisible city. And that's probably the bottom line message of this International Computer Conference, where the key buzzwords were convergence and alliance. For there is no more computer industry, or telephone industry, or cable industry, or publishing industry. It's all become one big, indivisible technology business. That's it for this special edition of the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee in Barcelona.
Computer Chronicles is brought to you in part by Intel, microprocessor technology for the software of today and tomorrow. Intel, the computer inside. Additional funding is provided by the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Video cassette copies of this program are available. Computer Chronicles also publishes a companion newsletter containing details on products demonstrated and information on program topics. To order a video cassette or a newsletter, call 1-800-799-4949 or write Computer Chronicles. Please specify program subject for tapes. All orders include a free software program for auditing software use and information on the definitive guide to keeping your organization's software legal.